So guacamole is by far the biggest fan favorite food around. I mean, if it's at a party, everyone eats it. If you're at a restaurant and you see it on a menu, you order it because that's what you're comfortable with and you know that it's gonna be good. If you go to a grocery store, you probably grab a container of guacamole, especially if they have a fresh guac section, if you're having people over to watch the game. But how often do you make it at home? And why don't you? In this video, I'm gonna show you an absolutely easy and awesome way to make just a knockout guacamole every time. And when we're done, you'll never be buying the stuff from the grocery store again. We're gonna go step by step. How to know if the avocados are ripe, how to make it, what to put in there, everything. And I'll link the recipe down below in the description too, so you have it for later if you ever wanna reference back. Now, if we're meeting for the first time, my name's Michael Ponzio and I make cooking videos for you. All right, so let's jump right in and talk about what ingredients we need to make this guacamole. First thing we need are avocados, and avocados are fantastic. There's a lot of different ways to tell if they're ripe, and there's tons of different tricks on the internet that honestly don't work either. But you wanna find an avocado that has a nice firmness to it. You don't want it to be hard like a baseball. You wanna be able to press your thumb in and it leaves an indentation, but you also don't want mush. You shouldn't press it and other parts of the avocado are squishing and moving around. So press your thumb in a little bit. If the thumbprint stays, but the avocado is still firm, you have a great one. The next thing is some diced tomatoes. You want just a nice Roma tomato or a beefsteak tomato and dice it up to a little bit bigger than a kernel of corn. Some diced red onion. Now here's a great little tip for red onion. If you don't want where you're gonna be kind of like tasting the onion all day and you want it to be a little bit on the sweeter side, slice a slice of the red onion and soak it in ice water for about 10 minutes before you dice it up. What that's gonna do, the water is actually gonna bring out the sweetness more of the onion, and you're not gonna ruin the onion because onions have such a heavy water content anyways. So this is a great little trick to make sure that your onion is sweeter and you're not suffering later for eating it. Now there's a great trick for the lime that I'm sure you've seen, on multiple cooking channels, but you wanna take the lime and use the palm of your hand here and actually roll the lime on the cutting board. And rolling it and applying a good amount of force is gonna break up the inside and the flesh of that lime and release a lot of those juices. So after we cut it in half, when it comes time to squeeze the lime, we're gonna get a much higher yield of juice out of that squeeze. I love to add a little bit of garlic to my guacamole, so a little bit of raw garlic. I smash the clove, chop about 1/4 of a clove fine for the 3 avocados that we're doing for this recipe. Some finely diced serrano chilies, some fresh chopped cilantro, and some kosher salt. Now, that's all we need to make the guacamole. It's actually very simple. Now, the best thing about guacamole is the fact that you could put anything in there. So one of my favorite combinations is a roasted corn and poblano guacamole, and maybe I'll do a video on that in the future. But I use all the same ingredients here, minus the tomatoes, but I add the roasted corn kernels and the charred poblano pepper. And it just is unbelievable in flavor and different elements. But I've done cucumber, mint, lime guacamoles. I've done tropical fruit guacamoles, charred pineapple guacamoles, any different kind. This one is the most classic standard guacamole and by far my favorite when I bring to a party because it's simple, it's clean, and it's delicious. So let's start with the avocado. Now, avocados are kind of the perfect fruit, right? Yes, fruit. And the thing about them is if you buy them and they're a little too firm, there are ways around. There's tricks that you could do to kind of fix that problem. One is you just leave it on the counter and you wait a few days until it softens up. Another, which is a rush trick and kind of a shoemaker trick, but it actually does work, is you take your avocado and you put it in a brown paper bag with an apple and you leave it overnight. And what happens is the apple releases gases that actually helps promote and increase the ripening time of the avocado. Now, if you leave it too long, you have a negative effect. It starts to over ripen. But if you're just looking for a little jump start, like, hey, I have that party tomorrow, my avocados just aren't there, that's a great little hack and trick to be able to get a nice ripe avocado for your guac. Now to cut the avocado, we're gonna take our knife and use the pit of the avocado as the guide. So using the knife, come down and then turn along the avocado, again, using the pit as your stopper. Take the avocado and turn it and open it up. Now, this is a beautiful looking avocado. If I take my fork, I can actually press right into the avocado. I know that this one is ripe. I know it's delicious. I know it's gonna be great. Now for this step, I like to use a fork and just plop the avocado halves out. Don't throw these pits away because these can keep your guacamole from turning color if you're saving it overnight. Now let's talk about that for a second. So as your avocados sit, or your guacamole sits, it starts to become a victim of oxidization where the air is hitting it and it's starting to ripen the smashed avocado more, and it's becoming brown and slimy, and you're not going to have that really amazing fresh guac flavor. So there's a few ways you can counter it, and most of it is natural with the ingredients that we're using, but probably the coolest trick is using the pit. So you leave these in there. Honestly, leave it in there until you serve it. I leave them in sometimes for the whole party, but these really help preserve the life of the guacamole. I don't understand the logic of it. I don't understand the science of it. I just know that it works, and I highly recommend it. Now, there are other ways to slow oxidization as well. Acid is a big one, and acid helps slow down oxidization of foods. So lime juice is straight acid. Another one is tomatoes. Tomatoes have a large amount of acidity, so those two in the guacamole are going to help keep it from changing color. Oftentimes, if I'm doing this for a party and I'm making it the day before, I'll actually take slices of tomato and put it on top, and then a sheet of plastic. And what that's going to do is help slow down the oxidization, and right before I go to the party, I peel the tomatoes off, stir the guacamole, and it is green as could be. So let's start smashing the guac and getting into this, because I am excited, I am hungry, and I want to just eat some chips. So the next step, we're going to start smashing the avocados to make the guacamole, and I use a fork for that. I mean, it's easy, it's controllable, it's got a flat bottom, it does everything I need it to. When I start to smash the guacamole, I don't want to over-process it. I know some people put it in a food processor or in a blender or use a hand mixer. You want to leave some big chunks of avocado in there so you have some difference in texture. They have different flavors, so you're going to add a whole nother dimension of flavor if you have creamy smashed avocados and chunks of avocados as well. I'm going to come in first and break chunks of the avocado up. And what this does is just make it a little easier when it comes time to mash and mix. Breaking into smaller chunks means that it's going to smash up a little easier versus having big halves of avocado just flying all over the place. I've done it. Once they're fairly smashed, I take the fork and just start pressing down. One quick little pro tip, don't over mash this to the final consistency you want yet, because we're going to add more ingredients. So we're going to add liquid when we add the lime juice, the tomatoes, all that, and it's going to loosen it up a little bit. So under mash it a little, and then we start adding the ingredients. And you can always beat it a little more at the end and mix it a little more at the end to loosen it up if you have to. So now that we have a nice, beautiful, thick mashed avocado, let's add all our other ingredients and get this guacamole made. We're gonna add in our chopped tomatoes, red onion, chopped garlic, serrano chilies, fresh cilantro, and squeeze half of a lime into this one. And you can use as much or as little of these ingredients as you want. I mean, this is really your guacamole at home and what's going to actually taste good to you. I personally like a lot of lime and a lot of chili in mine, but some people don't. Some people like less, some hate cilantro, so make it your own. Make it the way you want to make it and customize it so it's your signature guacamole. Last but not least, we're going to add the salt. Now we take the fork and just gently fold all this together. And you can see as I'm mixing how it's starting to loosen up a little bit. I think my favorite part about making this is the smell. I just love the smell of fresh lime juice and cilantro. I mean, it just pops. It's just so fragrant and aromatic. Now I'm going to taste for salt. I'm actually going to add a touch more. I like a good amount of salt in my guacamole. People go either way. I like a nice, heavily seasoned one. Now once this is mixed, and you can see it's got a really great consistency to it, I'm going to take the avocado pits and throw it in, because this guacamole is done. It's ready to go. If I'm storing it later, I'll throw the guacamole pits in. If I'm actually going to take this and just serve it right now, I'm just going to discard those and put them in the garbage. So one really cool little party trick that people started doing to make sure everyone kind of gets their own guacamole and isn't sharing is you save the avocado skins. Fill it with some of the guac and then add a few chips right into it. Now each person at your party has their own little guacamole boat. It's pretty clever, actually. Now what we're going to do, though, we're going to get a big platter of tortilla chips. And I fried these here. I love fresh fried tortilla chips. There's nothing like it. I'm going to take some of this guacamole and put it right in a bowl. And now I am going to serve and eat this delicious goodness. So one last little tip and trick, and I touched on it earlier. Oxygen is your enemy when you're serving guacamole. You want to avoid it at all costs. So if I'm making this to bring to a party later, I will bring my guacamole separate in a container where I've put tomatoes on top or the pits inside and a layer of plastic right on top of the actual guacamole and take it out and serve it. Now, if I don't have that choice and I want to just bring a container, I'll wrap this really, really, really tight in plastic. I'll still maybe even throw a tomato slice on top, but wrap it in plastic. Do everything you could to avoid getting air in there, because you put so much work into it. Why not let it shine and be the best it possibly could be? So thank you guys so much for watching. I can't wait to hear if you made it. I want to hear all about it. If you did, leave it down in the comments. Let me know, did you make it for a game day? Did it make that game day a little bit better, even maybe if your team lost? But like I said earlier, I will leave the recipe down below. I will leave timeline snaps so you could jump ahead to any point of the video, links to where I got my tools. If you guys like cooking or you want to learn more about cooking, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss when new videos drop. There's tons of great stuff coming out all the time. Check out this video on how to cook a perfect steak. If you like cooking seafood, there's plenty of things on there as well. So again, thank you guys so much and keep on cooking.